Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to today's conference. We will be talking about how technology has disrupted the lighting industry in the last few years and how it may unfold in coming years. Technologies like human-centric lighting, visible light communication, Li-Fi have had major impact on the lighting industries, and similar kind of technologies which most of the companies and vendors are working on, they may impact the lighting industry in coming years as well. These technologies are also impacting the consumers, and they are benefiting the commercials, residential and other projects as well, and they are helping the architect, interior designers. So we are hoping we would be talking about all these technologies, how they impacted the industry and how they may impact the industry in coming years. And we have a good mix of lighting designers, architects and interior designers today. So, and also Ralph, who is a manufacturer of lighting products. So today we will discuss about how we can create more awareness of how these technologies have had the impact, and what are the opportunities that lie ahead for all the stakeholders. So I would start with Kevin. So for instance, because he is the lighting designer, Kevin, how have you seen the industries unfold in respect to India? How has you seen the lighting industry unfold? What has been your journey, and how have you seen the technology that have come in, and how it has disrupted the industry?
Yeah, okay. So I think really technology, the big shift was from fluorescent to LED and from alternate light sources to LED. That process has been going on here for the last 6 or 7 years. I'm not sure that process has gone on well, okay? And I think worldwide it's a problem that a majority of manufacturers have certainly said, oh, I've got a light fixture, I've got an MR16 in there, now I'll just stick a COB in there and it'll work the same. So I think the disappointment in that technology change was that light fixtures were not redesigned. Some manufacturers did it, but a majority of didn't. They just swapped out one light source for another. So the light fixtures were not picking up from the efficiency of the light sources. They were not delivering often the quality of light that we wanted. Now, in the last couple of years, that's really started to change, both with international manufacturers and local manufacturers. But I think the real big change that is happening in lighting is, in terms of technology, is the much heavier use of LMS systems, lighting management systems, daylight harvesting, and now on top of that, IoT. So the topic that we're engaging in with nearly everybody now is IoT. How does that work in with lighting? How do we enhance energy? How do we, and that is really based on using lighting, interiors, etc., to support the experience of the user of the building.
Okay.
That's really where this is coming from, and the enhancement. So whether you're talking human-centric lighting, or whether you're talking energy management, or you're talking IoT, it's really directed now at how to change the user's experience of the space.
But are people actually accepting this kind of technologies?
Of the 6 meetings I had today, online and in person, yes, 5 of those were definitely focused around those sort of issues, whether it's tunable white lighting for HCL, or whether it is use of technology to manage energy, or how do we take a lighting system with IoT added to it, and then how do we use that to affect the low side and high side design of a building. How do we handle that with air conditioning? How can that enhance the experience? How can we save energy? How can we save money?
Anamika, you agree with this? So he's talking about how the lighting industry, he thinks that it has impacted. What, because you are also in lighting consultancy.
Yeah, the product is like same from the it's not changing, like whatever
Okay.
the drivers or whatever we are using, that is not exactly changing from the 5 years from the manufacturers.
Is there a reason behind this? Is the people that who are demanding is not that much interested in these kind of products, or is it because that they don't want to invest in this upgrading this kind of technologies because the cost involved is not that?
Yeah, there is that is the main reason. The cost is involved in that products.
And it is not that beneficial. So even if we invest, if a manufacturer or vendor invests in that particular technology and
See,
product.
sometimes they are ready to invest, sometimes they are not ready to invest in the, if there are, that is a big project or commercial, they are ready to go with that, but it's, if it's a small project, they are not ready to invest.
Bhavin, you are also in the architect designing firm, right? So from your perspective, when you meet the residential or commercial projects, or when you meet these clients, how interested are they in, you know, in the lighting segment of their project, and also how interested are they that they would like to have new kind of technologies installed in these kind of projects?
So I'll continue what when Anamika left is. One is when you're talking about a large scale project, I think it is working if the economics of scale kicks in.
Okay.
And for a client which is either a corporate or a developer, finally at the end of the day for them it is the user experience which counts, the aesthetics of the buildings which is counts. So that's their outlook of how it comes in, and what is the finally the, whether it's a capex going in and whether it's helping them in reducing their operating cost. It depends upon all these elements of how the clients looks at it. What is happening is so primarily when it's, if a solution is sustainable, that's where they look at. Second, if there's a cost optimization, if it look is what they will look at. Third is the user experience, and fourth is if it is a smarter technology which is more future ready, is what they will look at. These are the 4 or 5 elements which normally they would look at, and that's where the decision making comes in. So it's not generally a price point or a particular element driving a decision when the lighting is being designed or is being considered. It's a mix of all these things which a client will always look at when decision making is happening. Be it any typology, be it a commercial or residential. I'm talking about a large scale project. I'm not talking about a house or a boutique scenario where probably the economics may not work out.
Dinesh, do you agree that cost optimization is not the only factor that is driving the commercial projects or residential projects? Bigger one.
Well, cost definitely is one of the major factors, but then I would sort of say that yes, change is there and change is there to stay. You know, it's going to happen, and we need to be ready, and we need to sort of move ahead with it. And I think I'm one of the oldest people around. So for the past 30 years, I have definitely seen the amount of change. Like from the time when we used to literally work as to how to hide the luminaire to now today you have to search for it as to where it is. You know, that's been the type of change in the overall thing. We have been sort of going ahead with a lot of lighting in terms of LEDs and things and all. But sometimes we feel that, you know, technically we do not get the right inputs. For example, recently in one of our projects, and then we were told that, you know, we realized that the amount of lighting in the room is getting reduced. Lights are working, everything is working fine. And then comes up some technical fellow says, sir, you do not know. LEDs, you know, they reduce 8% per year. I said, what? So if you are going to, you know, these type of very simple phenomenons which are there, they are not shared. What we are always shared is what the driver will not work, so put it like this. And I'm talking from an architect's language. You know, that's a very simple this thing. So these things, you know, we do so much of work, and 8% is not small.
Yeah, no, that's,
No,
that's
that's
that number's a little high.
No.
Maybe, but you know, see,
LM70, LM80 means that, you know,
see, I will tell you, I'm not a lighting designer, but this is what came to me as the input, which was really very shocking.
I think the same thing applies that, you know, you put a tungsten light bulb in there and that will go after 100 hours.
Right, but that goes off.
Yeah.
Right, so you change it.
LED certainly has 2 things that happen. One is there's a color change over time.
Right.
And that can be more disastrous than the luminosity drop. But certainly there are, just like using metal halides or using any lighting technology, you've got to understand that technology fully to apply it. I think the biggest problem here is that the advent of LEDs means that every Tom, Dick and Harry is now a manufacturer of light fixtures. And I have, you know, I'm rejecting 10 companies a week that want to come in and show me their latest light fixtures. And of all the people that are coming to see me, I would see probably 3 or 4 companies that are innovating in the design of the fixture. Okay? And yeah, sure, we have all this lighting control technology up here, but India's also changing.
Yes.
I know when I first came to live here, everybody had 6,500 watt tube in their living room. that's disappearing. People are becoming aware of what lighting does and how part it plays. And LED technology has actually helped that come along
Definitely.
a lot by providing cheaper cost fixtures and an opportunity to do things in a different way.
Well, as I mentioned in the
yeah.
beginning, yes, change is inevitable and we need to move ahead. It's just that, if we get these type of nuances and all, it becomes so much better, so much easier for architects and all to basically move further.
But Ravi,
But let me say something here. I
Yes.
mean, on what she said, I think she said that there was a lack of change in the design over the last 5 years. I would just like to split that into two parts. One is the consumer-facing industry, and one is the enterprise, the
Okay.
B2B industry. I think there is leaps and bounds of change in the B2B industry, where the enterprise customer is looking to buy a product, whether it's an office building or an airport or a hotel or whatever it is. Unfortunately, I agree with her to say to an extent to say that the consumer is probably getting the short end of the stick, where I think the organized players, the big boys of the lighting industry, so to speak, who have financial clout, who have distribution reach to tier 2, tier 3 and rural parts of India, I strongly believe that they have not done enough to step up to the plate and give the average consumer a better choice. I think the enterprise consumer is getting a far better choice and a far better option than the average consumer is. The average consumer is still getting lumped with a tube light that is now a tube light looking fixture that is now powered by LEDs, a bulb that is now being powered by LEDs. And unfortunately, the education of what is good lighting that the big boys should be educating their sales staff, to his point, is not filtering down to not the big architects, but the smaller architects in the smaller cities, which are touching the homes of millions of people, rather than just the top 50 architects that may be doing the top 500 projects. Yeah, but the rest of them are still getting bulbs and tube lights that are now driven by LEDs, which are prone to a huge amount of flicker maybe, or very cold color temperatures, which may not suit our, I'm just afraid to see what India at night will look like 50 years from now when you look at it from space. It's going to look like one white blot as compared to, countries which are using warmer, controllable sources of light rather than just what the average
That's
Indian
a
buys.
cost-driven equation.
Yes, but
I agree to what Maulik is saying, but yes, Maulik, again, in terms of awareness to that particular segment of the market as consumers, as individual consumers, versus the level of awareness and knowledge and advice available to the enterprise, there's a big gap.
huge gap.
And we need to I agree to your one point that probably the smaller design companies who are dealing with that segment or that market of consumers needs to be made more aware. People like Kelvin, people like you should be probably.
But don't you think the architects and interior designers also have
Yes.
apart from lighting
Yes.
designers, they have a role to play. They have to be more aware of these technologies,
Yeah,
so
but
that they
that
can give this
education
to.
comes from the lighting manufacturers.
Huh.
And if the lighting manufacturer is not training its sales staff
Okay.
Yeah.
better to be able to advise the architect or the interior designer better, then this cycle will propagate itself.
Yeah, but I think the biggest problem is that the companies you're talking about have always been manufacturing to the lowest common denominator at the lowest possible price.
True.
Right.
And there is no interest in those companies in changing that equation.
True.
They're all adding on a value add to the enterprise market, whichever one we're talking about. But no, they're going to continue to do that because it's only about generation of money.
Right.
Nothing
and
else.
Price point is a big pressure there.
Huge.
No, but
Huge.
but Bimal, to that point, and I always bring this analogy again to the big boys of lighting, is that what Hindustan Motors and Fiat did to the Indian consumer for all these decades and decades by giving a consistently average product without innovating, and they were only forced to innovate when the likes of Maruti or Toyota or anybody else came to the country. That's when they had to wake up and smell the coffee, and when they didn't, they got wiped out.
Which will happen, Maulik, as we see it from our side of the table.
Yes.
With so many people, the younger millennials who are in the system, who are working as a part of large enterprise ecosystem. They work in these super fancy office spaces with all this technology integration. Those aspirations, what they experience in the workspace, are going to definitely be carried to their homes. And that
Yes.
is where the change will start coming in.
Yes.
And from that generation, because the generation ahead of it, those people who are probably in the late 50s or early 60s, never experienced those technologies at the workspaces.
True.
So from our perspective as being an
That's
architect,
happening, yeah.
we are very optimistic on that.
Yeah.
I mean, you will have seen in the last couple of years
Yes.
how picky
Right?
IT employees are
Right.
about color temperature, about glare,
Right.
and there is huge issues
Yes.
ranging there at
Yes.
the moment.
Yes.
The thing is, I agree with Bimal. And the challenge, what right now was, we are moving the paradigm shift. It is like we were using light. Light was just a part of a unit. We were not talking right now. An emotional quotient has come. An intelligent quotient is always the focus. Right now, emotional quotient. We are talking about design with empathy. Design with empathy, where it's completely shifting. So absolutely, when we are talking about that, the younger generation, the millennials, this is a period where the three generations are happening. The X, Y, and the millennials. It's the three generations are working together, and where it's you to the point you're talking about financial factor, the monetary. No, the wellness became more and more day in day out. The wellness is being spoken, so everybody started looking towards that. So when the big boys in the market wants to play it, they are more concentrating on it. When you start experience, because the market is business. The business consumer is the largest. From where it starts from the office, it goes to home.
No, I think the largest consumer is the home consumer.
Home consumers, but for home consumers, light is a part. To switch on, the light comes in. From that paradigm to LED, we have moved it, and from there, we are still moving ahead.
I think Mr. Malik made a very important point that yes, it's only the top so many architects, so many projects which we are talking about, where we get into all these modes and moods and the types of thinking in terms of the planning and stuff like that.
Yes.
But the larger market is not that. The larger market where you're having all the things being sold by companies, for them it is
Yeah,
business,
it's junk.
and that's the OTC market.
Yeah.
Consumer market.
Consumer market.
And
right?
they're getting the
after
short end of the
absolutely
stick.
right.
So
they don't have
just
the
go
choice
to the
that you
shops
have.
and they pick up whatever you want. And if you just compare the amount of the number of products being sold in that market, vis-a-vis to which are being sort of, I would say, channeled through architects, where we sort of put in the things and stuff and all, the percentage is phenomenally different.
Agree.
Raj, I challenge you, go to the average counter in a tier 2 or a tier 3 city and
Yes.
ask for a warm 3000K light. You will have to look at 10, 20 shops
Yes.
before you
Yes.
find one.
Absolutely.
And maybe not.
Absolutely.
So what is happening is that our tier 2, tier 3 towns and the average Indian consumer is being forced to live with dirty white light when he should be given a choice.
Malik, why you talk
Yes.
about territory? You go to a metro, the big malls here, things and all, and you go to their electrical area. You will not get a warm white LED bulb. You are getting
Yeah.
just white.
White.
I think what's happening is, I'll just borrow two words with Kevin. We were just talking outside, and he used two words very critical. It's about, and the point you made about the salesman being taught about it, being educated about it. It's the journey of from illumination to lighting. What we are talking about is always illumination in the house.
Yes.
It just need to be lit up.
Lit up. We are moving to
From
the
illumination to
the
lighting. That concept, if everybody understands down the chain, supply chain,
Yes.
I think that probably is the answer to that
I
solution.
think the big boys need to understand it first.
Needs to, yeah.
So we have manufacturer and
Very well, they understand that they're going to move 50 million units of that particular piece of crappy light fixture, and that's all they're interested in. You know this. We had one of those people in my office today. We were talking to it. Yeah.
right. So we have a manufacturer and we have a builder here. So we will talking to both. So because manufacturers are the one you are saying that they should be also pushing for these technologies and pushing for these awareness about these technologies to architects and interior designers. So I would like to ask Ralph on his views and how do you think whatever the technology that you are putting in your products, how easy or how difficult it is to spread those awareness, and what are the things that you do from your perspective?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So what I have heard so far, I can agree to everyone's statement from the manufacturer side. Let me come back shortly. I wrote that just down because we have different stages before and where we are in now. So Ledvification started in Europe 2010, in India maybe 2014 or 2015. So this was all about energy efficient light. Yeah? So of course we had also a big campaign, a big help from the government side with ESL, which rolled out that campaign, especially with bulbs. Yeah? This was a mass business. So, and this dropped certainly the prices to a minimal pricing you can get. Because a LED, a good LED, has a price. Yeah. So the second stage where we are in at the moment, I think, is a kind of intelligent lighting systems, where light would be seen as a kind of sustainability, to bring a sustainability. Yeah, that's what you said, Kevin, I think, yeah, before. Yeah.
One part of it.
So, and I think where we come very fast through is, I'm a friend of human-centric lighting, I cannot hide that. And I would call that the next step would be light for well-being. Yeah? So from the manufacturing side, of course, when you're talking about the mass market, the end consumer market, you have to push volumes, yeah, to get something on the table to be profitable. But it is for us as manufacturers not that easy to look 10 years ahead. Yeah, because the technology shift from analog to LED was very fast and a big step. And I agree with you, Maulik, it is about the education. Yeah? You said rightly, if somebody works for Google, certainly they will have another feeling for light which they put in their home than somebody who has no idea. And we could do a better job, I agree here, from the contract from the manufacturer side, to educate the mass. But this costs a lot of money to reach them. Sure, we have all homepages, we are on Facebook, we are on social media. Yeah? But I have the feeling that the end consumer is more and more searching, and here the internet helps certainly to get, before they purchase something, more information, the basic information, if they're not working for Google's or for Yahoo's, out of the internet. Yeah? But for us, it is a very depressing situation, especially in India, I can tell you, because now when we're talking about lighting for end consumer, it dropped down to a simple commodity product. So quality does not play any role, because everybody is giving at least 1 year warranty. So the end consumer is saying, okay, XY, 5 rupee cheaper or lower from the price, even they do not understand that the difference makes the LED, the quality of the LED is in, and the lighting engine. How can they? Because nobody is educating them. Yeah? When you come to a reseller, to the secondary market, come and say, okay, I want to have 20 whatever, then he will show you at least 3 different manufacturers. Yeah? This is for sure. So, and he will sell the fastest which he can sell to him. So there's not much education done at the end consumer counter. Yeah? And I would like to point out, all manufacturers globally are suffering now. Because the margins are shrinking dramatically. So therefore you have to push, it's not an excuse, but it's a fact, you have to push huge volumes into the market when we are talking about that end consumer market. Yeah? So I think the contract the manufacturers will and have to educate the people more, but you are an important source for that. Yeah, when you have 6 meetings and 5 understand already what this brings, then you have done a great job. Whether you get that contract or not, or that order. So at the moment, we are the branded manufacturers. We are fighting against phantoms, which putting here 76% black imported material into the markets from China. This is a fact. Yeah, this was also in the press some months or some years ago, 1.5 years ago. But here we need more help also from the government. This can be regulated. Yeah. So therefore, everybody is focusing on that mass business because this brings the biggest portion on the plate, and maybe losing the train a little bit for the future, which really drives that business. That means intelligent solutions like human-centric lighting. I mean, there is a lot of well-being, health issues, positive influence behind. So that's a short statement from a manufacturer. It's at the moment a very tough environment for us because actually we have to move forward to make the difference, but the most of our turnover is coming from the mass business, and you can talk to other CEOs; they will tell you similar things. Yeah.
So I think between Kelvin and me, probably, I don't know if there's anybody else who's as deeply into the lighting business as probably Kelvin and I are. And yes, this is a vicious cycle that perpetrates itself. And I can only say, okay, as an Indian that wants to have a better looking country 20 years from now, I can only say the starting point for all manufacturers is if you do not start training your sales force to be more sensitive, who are going out to the resellers, who are going out to the distributors, who are going out to the small architects. I agree that reaching the mass and educating the mass is very expensive, undoubtedly. But every manufacturer has maybe 20, 50, 100 salespeople at best. I don't think anybody's got more than 100 salespeople, maybe. Yeah. It's easy to train 100 salespeople because those 100 reach out to 5,000. And those 5,000 reach out to 500,000. So at least if you start with your 20 or 100 and they're sensitizing the 5,000 retailers, those 5,000 retailers will at least sensitize 500,000 consumers. So that's the ripple effect that starts somewhere.
You're right. It's funny that you are saying that. I had a sales meeting with my team 2 days ago, and I actually said exactly this is our challenge. Yeah, because you have not only salesmen, you have also then people below. We call them long arm sales. I don't know. This is these are the people on the ground. Yeah. But these people are not so educated from the basic education, but it's not an excuse. Education must come, especially in the field, from the manufacturer. It's very clear. Yeah.
There also needs to be an intervention, I think. There is so little lighting education done, and this is another job that I think falls to manufacturers also, is that within our institutions, whether it's architecture, interior design or general design, that lighting has never really been a subject. Yep. And it's only in the last, well, certainly not in our generation. I think now it's becoming more. And I think that's also another place. But I think an interesting thing to add on to Malik, though, is I do believe things are changing. I walk down my road and I can tell you how old the people are that live in each house by the color temperature of the light. And it is changing. But
No, I agree to that. It's a change which will, looking at the quantum of what we have to address, it's a change which will take time. We change this, it will happen. for this industry too.
Do you think that the change is coming from builders because you are a builder? Do you really think that builders are actually, interested in these kind of technologies being installed in their own projects and investing in these kind of technologies?
I think,
Or in general of the lighting.
so basically we are into interior designing, and in the past it happened that I worked with clients like Snyder and government PSU like Bestcom and other things. So they had a requirement of giving a shadowless experience center to be built up for showing the product, and we sold the design in the first cut, and we were struggling 3 months to get a partner who can design that particular lighting, who can give a completely shadowless light. But finally we executed, and but going forward, as you said, like we are from the luminous to lighting, we are thinking we are in a change. There's a long way to go. At the same time, I remember when the motion sensor came and we installed in one of the client to give it a IoT, and the client went to the bathroom and it went off, and then as I said, they said like, oh, it required a body sensor automation. So it's always been a change and a transformation which we are also seeing and looking at. I completely agree. One thing, we are in a completely paradigm shift where earlier people used to work for just to have their salaries and thing. Now they ask, okay, apart from salary, what else you want to give it? Now it's a millennials age where they're looking for a social benefit. Okay, fine. Everybody's giving salary. Everybody's giving right infrastructure, good lighting, well-being. Now what? So that's where I think lighting plays a very big role, because end of the day, it is also, we talk about it generate a good efficiency to work on that, and that again, directly or indirectly, it goes very well in favor of the corporates and the company. I agree that I went when I was building a one remote project, and I was struggling the same yellow light to find it out, from a bigger market, from I think Big Bazaar. I don't know how many Big Bazaar I had seen on the tier 2 city. Going forward, when we are working with some RE100 companies back, because when the lighting was shift from energy saving, the USP of selling a CFL on top of any bulb, that time we used to say we are doing a great energy saving. Now we are shifted from CFL to LED. We're also telling that as a USP, that you're going to save the energy. I think what you said is the next pitch is how your well-being is going to get solved it out, right? We are there. People are realizing it out, especially with all the clients which I'm working. The great thing that the government PSU like Bestcom has making a center of excellence just to educate the people, because going forward there is a deficiency of the current and the power is going to happen, and these are the methods how we are making the smart grid system, how we're making right IoTs to come and to make a right kind of experience. We got, like, for example, there are a lot of crazy requirement comes, like Snyder came up with one more requirement. If you they have a huge boardrooms, and they said, do you have any lighting system which can take care of the occupancy, and if there are only 2 people, only 2 light will on, if there are 4 people are there. This is really great to see, because somebody is thinking on those lines. It's not like, as he said, like for a long time the fixtures were not changing. Now they all are in change, and I'll see in the future we'll be having really great options to work on.
Right. Sunita, from interior design perspective,
Yes, that's right.
How do you see this lighting industry, and how do you see this technology? Do you see that clients, larger or smaller ones,
Absolutely.
do you see these clients taking up these kind of technologies in your business?
Yes, it's a huge shift, I can say, because everything now is global. It's not just like limited to one area or one specific field. Every platform demands global competition kind of a thing. So nowadays we have people who have traveled globally, who come to us, who have seen various kinds of lighting solutions and mood settings and scenes and whatnot. So it's not just about illumination, like he said, it's more of technology. They ask for what's the best thing that we can get. In, of course, budget everybody have. So that's something which has to go hand in hand. It's not just you get them the best and it doesn't work in their budget, it's not going to work.
But Amit, what is your take? Do you really think that people are actually giving this portion of their budget for their lighting segment?
Actually,
Still,
people, when it's come to about the lighting, I normally meet that local interior, like local clients, like small office building,
Right.
small offices, like small house interiors and all. People are in habit of like previously we have get that fixtures, and we have to purchase like bulb and tube lights. We have standard fixtures. Nowadays the company is selling fixtures. They are not selling any like if I am a local customer, I need a fixture, then I have option to purchase a light purchase a bulb, which like company is not selling two different things like fixtures and lights differently.
It's no more a holder and a bulb, basically.
Yeah. So
it's a fitting.
if LED industry look into that matter, that they promote only their fixtures, like standard fixtures, and people have option to they buy like fixture from any lighting showrooms, and they know they have to educate about that this kind of fixtures available in the market, like this kind of LED bulbs available in the market, which is standard and it's going to fit in any kind of light fixture which is available in the market. So this kind of awareness, this kind of advertisement is not there. So previously what kind of experience we have in the lighting designing, like people normally buy that fixtures from the market, and they have option to purchase bulb or any tube light which is going to be fit in that fixtures. So if we promote fixtures differently and bulb like LED bulb, LED tube light different thing. So people have option. They like in like house, like apartment. I have a wash basin. I have two fixtures along that mirror. So I know that there is some lighting company which is selling warm fixtures which are going to fit in that fittings, which is widely available in the market. So this kind of awareness is not there. The market needs to be focused like we previously doing that. Fixtures are different, and that element like bulbs and tube lights are different. So people have option. They can purchase any fixture from anywhere, and they know they are the good company. They are selling the warm lights and all. So they have option to purchase these internal elements from big companies and like this.
But Santosh,
No.
The awareness, the other side of awareness is the mindset of people. How actually people are interested in these kind of technologies to get them implemented. Do you really think that the mindset is also the reason that awareness, people are not willing to spread awareness, or reason why the technologies are not getting that that much upgraded, or reason that the technology is not making that much way through in the industry, is that the people are still, the Indian industries, mostly the traditional industries, the traditional companies are still focused on cost cutting, especially during the time when there is a consolidation happening, especially during the time when they are looking at the cost factor.
Especially if you talk about cost factor, the light fixture cost has been reduced. If you talk about in terms of LEDs, if you talk about controls like DALI, still many offices are not fit with the DALI because still they are thinking that it is a complicated system. Why we have to go with? We are talking about POE now, but now only some of the clients they started using DALI system for controlling. So especially on control type, there should be some reduction in cost has to be done.
Raj, do you think that the mindset needs to change because if that doesn't change, then people won't be interested in much in these kind of products, and if that doesn't happen, the manufacturer won't be interested in spreading the.
I completely agree. What Siddharth was talking about, the thing is, see, lighting was just one of the factor. Right now, it is considered as wellness. People's mindset as a patagram, it is shifting. All we have been used, the whole Indian economy is used with tube lights and a halogen lamp. It's been inculcated in their heads. So it's just lighting is just a piece of a long white tube and a round yellow bulb. Right now, the manufacturer are moving towards that, saying that no, why did we shift to CFL and became LED? The USPs as said that it's always energy saving. Right now, beyond energy saving, wellness becoming into a factor. To keep this, maybe a couple of years, one of the largest lighting manufacturer introduced different color LEDs. It's especially for B2C. Before we are talking about human-centric lighting, the color lighting, B2C came in. How successful it was. It looked as an art piece. It was a very good product. It was an individual product. It was brought it, and it was introduced. The color changing, color temperature changing light was introduced to B2C.
It was an idea before its time.
Before its time, it's way ahead of it. But none of the things people didn't. They were not educated in the senses. They were not able to accept it. The acceptance level is right now started growing because the wellness factor is like, I got money, I got life. What is the wellness became a pretty much important thing. And second thing, as you said, we are globally connected through internet. We are connected every way. So we just browse it, and for architecture, it's becoming a nightmare called Pinterest. Everybody, like, you open internet, can you see this? This is something which it's become a very, very nominal one. So everybody is getting educated.
So people come nowadays, the clients come with 3K, 6K kind of an education, which is like, wow, they already know a few things about it.
That's
It is not a bulb, it's not a light anymore. So people are educated quite a bit.
And lighting is not a fixture. The only thing the manufacturer look at is lighting is not a fixture, it's a solution. If that is the way it is being brought into the market, people will start understanding. Rather than it's a product, lighting is not a product, lighting is a solution for you. If that paradigm shift changes, then
I think the biggest change is that, to his point, that earlier there were luminaire manufacturers and lamp manufacturers.
Yeah.
That does not exist anymore. Today,
True.
every luminaire manufacturer is a lamp manufacturer.
Yeah.
It's one unit.
So it's becoming a
and to
solution.
go back would be turning back the clock and putting us back instead of moving ahead. So I think the challenge is to actually, to what Kelvin's original point was, that most manufacturers have not innovated to the form factor of the LED reducing. Yes. They have simply swapped out one tube light for another. They swapped out a fluorescent tube light for an LED tube light. But they have not worked to the core advantages of the LEDs reducing in size to design luminaires that reduce in size. Okay, and as he said, it's sometimes it's difficult to find where the light fixture is, and that is the way it should be.
Right. Sure. So going by his point, that lighting is a solution, and that's I'll pick it up from there, and that's one of the key things. And what I'm hearing here is two distinct segments: the more enterprise consumers, B2B, who are obviously working in environments where well-being, experience, energy efficiency, capex versus opex, all those are the buzzwords and actually implementable, and the consumers market, which is the mass. So the important part is, if I go by him, lighting as a solution, what is exciting for us as architects is from the basic function which light is supposed to give as luminance, the emergence of lighting as one of the component of the entire IoT system, right? That is exciting for us right now. And at enterprise level, where we deal with has, a lot of customers are educated, so they are already talking about well-being, experiences, energy efficiencies, LMS Kelvin mentioned about. But when you start looking as light fixture or lighting entire system as a solution, and how that's getting integrated with the other elements of the real estate infrastructure as a whole, and not exist in isolation, and starts talking to the HVAC, and starts talking to the security systems, and starts talking to the occupancy sensors, that is equally exciting and more exciting from our side of the table right now.
Interestingly enough, India's position that we will actually do what we've done in so many other technologies, that we will leave out two
Exactly.
I mean, right now there is a lighting manufacturer that makes an intelligent bulb which we can change the color temperature.
Right.
Right now that's really expensive.
Yeah.
But over the next 5 years, that is going to become run-of-the-mill.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's why I quoted this as an example. We leapfrogged, right? A lot of villages where you don't even have fixed landlines yet in the country, and the guy sitting on the roadside would be talking with two mobiles probably. We'll leapfrog this.
But they're not putting landlines in anymore.
They don't need to. Stopped, right?
Stopped.
So
Yeah.
there will be, I'm very confident that even in this form of the technology which we are talking about as lighting as a solution, and Maulik, coming to your point, the change time is going to be very short.
Is it because the global companies are coming in? Is it because those are bringing in those kind of standards, those kind of technologies to it? Or is it that the traditional Indian companies or corporates or residential companies or industries?
I heard somewhere global.
Huh.
It acts on the providers too, like him. They will impact the local manufacturers because they also have to survive in the same ecosystem. And yes, there would be a price. Ours is a huge country,
Right.
and there'll be consumers at each bandwidth of the price point.
Yes. Yes.
And that will also change over a period of time as the larger middle class gets still larger and the affordability of that class increases. That will also change. But with the global consumers, manufacturers coming into our country, a lot of local manufacturers will be forced to change, and we are seeing that change. There is no, the gap is now very less.
Right.
And is something what Bimal is talking about is very valid, because the cycle of the change is going to be very short, and the global companies coming in. What's happening is, I have a different take to this whole thing, that we always look at the mass thinking the consumer does not understand. We sometimes underestimate the intelligence of the end customer. Yeah, and as a result of it, the manufacturers end up giving out a mediocre product, which is basically the example of an Ambassador and a Fiat. And then I compare these to the tube lights. Maruti 800 was the CFL, and the new models which we have is the LEDs here. What's happening is the companies themselves don't give enough innovation to the product, thinking the customer won't pick it up for XYZ reasons. We don't really realize that there's huge appetite for the end user these days, at least with the amount of the exposure they have with the technology. If through the innovation, the companies which comes with the innovation will be absorbed first. It's first come first serve when innovation comes into picture. And no amount, so in this day and age, innovation sells better than experience. Similarly, innovation will sell better than mass production. And that will kill the China market or whatever market we are talking about. And that's the shortcut cycle what Bimal is talking about. The change won't go through the whole loop. It will take the shortest path of least resistance come into the industry. That's what is going to happen. Another point is there's enough technology of IoTs and indigenous apps like MyGate and everything coming into the market right now. When you combine that with the IoTs of it and get that loop, that everything in with the lighting industry, a simplest of the I think a customer can be any age group, will be in a position to switch on or switch on off. They're okay with that smart solution. They will understand it. We assume they will not understand it. Don't give it to them. That's what my take is all on this.
Even manufacturer, the challenges, like on the price aspects, we are talking about these are the fixtures. So in the price aspect, we are talking about, okay, you are having an old fixture. Let us change the lights for you. The refitting of that, the client never asked for, or the average consumer doesn't want to have that. But given an opportunity, a human mind always goes for the easier solution, the most simplest solution and the easier solution. So it's the paradigm shift which we want to make it starts both ways. It's mutual from the C community, where the consumers as well as the manufacturers. So it's one step. Both of them move further down. Definitely, we can reach to that.
So there are two distinct parts, as I'm hearing from Maulik's side and Kelvin's side, as light's core function and therefore the light function and therefore technology related to that part which Maulik is talking about, and the architects which I'm hearing on the table as lighting as a solution to the larger ecosystem. Right? So there are two distinct parts which are moving together.
Okay, so if you divide this into two parts, let's say we divide it into B2C and B2B. Now if you talk about the B2C angle, the consumer angle, now if you look at the residential projects, the RWAs, when the RWAs take over of the societies, the houses that are being developed in tier 2 cities, the low cost housing that is being pushed by the government. Now all these are mass production. This is where most of the lights will be consumed. Most of the lighting products will be consumed. Now these are the people, the B2C people, who would have very limited awareness first about these technologies, new products, these LED products. Second, their cost is overall low. If I talk to an RWA, if I talk to a builder, they are not really interested in installing high-end technology, high-end LED product in their own projects or in their own house. Very few of the niche clients, very few of the luxury developers, they are going for these new technologies, they are going to do the lighting products that are being installed. Then it comes to the B2B part. These are the commercial companies or the corporates, Google, Facebook, or the WeWork, or the traditional companies that are now changing. Bajaj has changed their few of their offices and they have redesigned their own lighting and all those things. Retail segments or the Decathlon that is coming in, they want that this lighting provide a solution to them, so that their products can be also used accordingly. So if a client enters, if a person enters, they want that they can use this and the lighting to provide this kind of solution apart from other technologies that they are looking at. So don't you think that this is the B2B that will drive this kind of technology changes rather than B2C?
No,
Even if they must
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because what happens is that in any country or any industry, the segment of people that reaches out to the largest mass is the government. And the people who are lobbying with the government are industry bodies.
Yes.
In our country, the industry body that sits on top of the entire lighting industry is ELCOMA.
Yes.
And the ELCOMA body is largely populated or only populated by the big boys of lighting. They have the ability, they have the government's ear, they have the ability to influence and talk to the government, to educate the IAS officer or the government official there, to sensitize him to better lighting, so that the EESLs of the world that are putting out these 500,000 street light tenders, those tenders can be written with a little more empathy. Because that's a very small effort.
Yes.
That's a very small effort that reaches out to a very large segment of people. So it's that little effort that the ELCOMA body and the organized sector of lighting needs to do with the government, which is what the lobbying in the US is all about. Okay, and that lobbying then impacts millions of people. Instead of one thing that he can do is train his 100 salespeople. Those 100 salespeople will touch 5,000 people at best. But if that 15 people like this sitting in a room are able to sensitize the government as to what they need to do for the mass housing and for the mass consumer, that change is a far greater ripple effect than what anybody else can do at their individual level.
Then why do you think that this is not happening?
Because the companies are only running after the month-on-month sales numbers, they're running after their quarter figures, and they're all going for the low-hanging fruit. Nobody wants to make the extra effort. Nobody cares enough to make the extra effort to seek a long-term change. There's not enough passion and I could be wrong, maybe I am seeing the passion only at the smaller businessman level. Okay? Maybe there's not enough passion at that level for those companies to want, they don't care. All they care is that, am I selling my 10,000 light bulbs at the end of the week or not?
Ralph?
You'll get a white Maruti and that's all you'll get it.
Yeah.
Ralph, do you think most...
Thomas Ford did the same thing, you get a black Ford, that's all you get. But I think that...
No? What do you think, Bimal?
No, so I agree to that. So, but as I said, there are two very clear baskets we are talking here about. Right, as a B2C and a B2B, and the issues and the challenges and the impact of technology change in B2C, yes, it's slower in pace.
Yes.
The impact of perceiving lighting as a totally different tool in a B2B environment is different angle.
Yeah, that is at par with the globe.
But I see a convergence happening very soon. I don't agree to the point where that this change might take a long time. I see this jumping certain loop cycles of technology and convergence happening very soon.
We have moved away from darkness is bad.
And to your point, Bimal, and to your point, I'll tell you, and I'm very happy this happened in Bombay, where I come from to begin with, okay? I'm very happy that the Marine Drive Residents Welfare Association, okay, when the BMC changed the entire street lighting of the Queen's Necklace at Marine Drive to white LEDs, okay, they were very proud, they were thumping themselves on their back, oh wow, what a great job. The Marine Drive Residents Welfare Association came up in arms, okay, and fought for 2 years, and finally the government had to take all those white LEDs off and re-put it with warm white LEDs, because the average Mumbaikar in that area said, my city is looking shit. So Marine Drive is not supposed to look cold and white, and that's not...
Glamour is lost.
Yeah.
So from a aesthetic angles, yes, you're right. Now, taking an example of what he was saying about Li-Fi. Now imagine how powerful a tool that is for areas where there is actually no electricity and just electricity coming in, and you install a Li-Fi light fixture in those rural areas from day one. They have jumped a couple of steps.
They've jumped
right?
generations.
And then straight away into the new thing and technology, and the absorption will be amazing.
Yeah,
It's more like implementing by government the solar energy and things like that. It would probably, yeah.
So I see this, the role of lighting and technology, which are both getting integrated as a very, very, very powerful tool in hands of the designers, lighting consultants, to bring about a big change from the perspective of, so I don't see as architect lighting's role as only illuminance or only color or only experience. The basket is getting bigger and bigger.
But I will also tell you an example. So there was a lighting manufacturer in Bangalore. So I was talking to him, and he said that he bid for the ESL street lighting projects. Now the bid was won by some other company who installed those street lighting projects, smart lighting, smart street lights, and those products were actually imported from China, most of these products, and then they had to replace it in within 1 year. And these ESL went to that particular company and asked them to change those products. So even if the smart lighting or the even if the government, so because Maulik mentioned about the government's push towards this, the companies that are manufacturing these products, they are also not bringing in this kind of technologies or this kind of because importing it from China was affordable, low cost, and those manufacturing in India, that particular person who is in Bangalore, he has a manufacturing facility in near Bangalore, and their cost was higher, and hence they didn't win the tender. So the point is, the manufacturers, those are developing these kind of technologies, or if the government pushes for these kind of technologies, Maulik, don't you think that it will happen the similar way that is happening in all those infrastructure projects that is happening? So they will install those low cost products, and then
That is exactly what is happening. I mean,
then their experience will be bad, and then their
industry is
experience will be bad,
China
and
dependent.
then their experience will be bad. And
90% of the lighting industry is China dependent, because nobody wants to take the effort to put up their own manufacturing. There are a handful,
yes,
Havells has, and there are a few companies that have put up their own manufacturing. Osram has, Ledvance, Osram, I get confused between the two brands, but they have put up their manufacturing plants, but that's a handful few. I can count maybe, less than 10 manufacturing plants in the country for lighting. Everybody else is simply going to, China, white boxing it, labeling it and selling it.
But do you think
that's
that
the business challenge of it?
No, but as long as we have this, concept of L1, L2, L3 in the government,
Yes.
where they talk about the money and not the specifications,
yes.
right?
Yeah. Total
This-
cost of
th-
ownership,
yes.
life cycle
So
ownership.
this
until
will continue. Okay,
Who's going to, the thing is, who's going to educate them?
Well,
That's the-
wait. That is also a process which is happening, and now what they have started doing is, they have, instead of the single tender, they have the 2 envelope concept which they are talking about.
Okay.
So they put out all the technical specs first, put people on the same line, and then the top 3 of those technical people, they open their envelopes, which sort of give you the L1, L2, L3. So something has had a little bit of change, but in a government in Indian this thing, definitely it takes time.
it takes time.
But change, as what we are discussing about, I'll just like to tell that, I think from the general people, the population, I think everybody has accepted this change. And if you look around, it's not only just the designer projects or what we are saying, but even the regular telewala, that person who's taking a hawker on the street, if you go around, he is also using LED bulbs on his hawking.
That's the sign of the change.
That's a sign of the change. He doesn't bother whether it is cream, white, yellow, whatever it is. For him, there's a light, and he picks up. And if you see the type of things which are moving there, he picks up one bulb, he puts it. His neighbor puts in 2, and then very soon you see in the market the amount of illumination which is happening. So what if it is white? For them, there's a price, and they're getting a light.
That's the next level of education,
Yes.
is what Maulik is aspiring for. So first is the source, than the color.
Yes.
It's
It is-
Maslow's law of hierarchy, no? Everybody needs their roti kapda makan
No,
needs
our
first.
technology is like that. The technology is disruptive technology. Whatever we are talking about, a very simple. When we were talking about writing a letter, then came an email, then came a SMSing. We were just doing it. After a period of time, WhatsApp, Facebook was there. WhatsApp came in. Where are we? Who, personally, like 5 years or 8 years, anyone has wrote an email to a friend or a relative? No. It's only a WhatsApp. The technology is changing. Same thing what Bimal was saying is more like it will happen. The technology change which is going to be very, very quick.
It's just that, see, some will adopt it faster, some will adopt it slightly. So some will wait for the others to do, then look at behind the wings and they say, wow, it's good, I'll do it
Yes.
now. It's just that particular
We are
thing what
at
we are
that
talking
merger.
about. Yeah. But change definitely is there, is going to happen, it's continue to happen.
Technology is driving that.
Technology
Yes,
is
technology is definitely
is
driving
driving
it.
it.
Like
Definitely
you have these bulbs which are coming in with a built-in battery. So you put it on, and for 7 hours or 8 hours, if there is no power, you get the LED light, which is the same bulb which is there. So there are a lot of good things which are happening there. There are because of your, the number of solar things which have come, which are directly giving you power in the small LED, is also grown up so many. So, and people are adopting it.
Just the change in the education
Yes,
of children.
yes.
By being able to take an LED
Yep.
lamp, put it in the sunshine for the day, bring it into the house and get
Right.
absolutely a light level of light to learn by. I think even on the government level it's changing. I think I agree with Malik. We have to work as an industry. I mean, the architects have been doing that for years and affecting the change that has gone in sort of building regulations and things. We don't have that same structure in the lighting industry. It's too new an industry here.
It's very, very early stages, even for enterprises.
Yeah.
You know,
To
but the
have a
scary
lighting
part,
designer on the table all the time, even for enterprises, it's happening only since last 4 or 5 years.
but you know, the scary part, Bimal, and I've been reading global lighting survey studies for the last 5 years, and it has been predicted that post 2020 or 2022, the penetration of LED lights in most countries would have reached a level where they will not need to change another light bulb for another 10-15 years, which is why people like Ralph are getting jitters, because companies like Osram are getting sold, because what happens when you've changed 70-80% of all the CFL's tube lights that are there in the country have moved to LED, where is the next wave of replacement going to come? Only after 10 years, because that's the average life of the LED bulb. So by then, if
Good
the
quality
education
one.
does a good quality one,
A good
by then
quality
if
one.
the education hasn't happened, you're already facing a fait accompli where your visual landscape is not looking the way you want it to look, and it's too late to change.
And that is where a market like India is going to provide them the
Then
opportunities.
there is this catch
and
of
when they were
8% reduction, where they have to change probably.
no, so that's
There's
a
that catch.
big number. I don't take
Yeah,
that
even
as a
I
whatever
number.
percentage, of course,
But
but
then when those kind of lighting manufacturers who are looking for more appetite, more food, and when they will cross boundaries into countries like India, they will have that moment of integrating different kind of technologies to already existing LED mature solutions which they have been selling in the other market, and look at the other aspects of integrating technology, which we are talking about in the enterprise model. Those models will start penetrating in the consumer models too.
And, to
And that is their opportunity which they have to capture.
True, and to the point of the subject of the discussion today, how has technology disrupted the lighting industry? I would say, in a nutshell, that technology has taken the lighting industry from the cottage industry stage to a jet engine stage, okay, in a very short period of time, because all of a sudden, technology has enabled lighting to deliver data, to deliver wellness, to deliver color, to deliver, which earlier it was just on and off.
It was just living in isolation as only a source of illumination.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it got integrated with the whole ecosystem of real estate.
So now with street lighting, with so much possible via street lighting, via home lighting, it has suddenly become a Bollywood A-star hero from being an extra in the film set, so to speak.
You're right.
How are you looking at the Indian industry?
lighting industry. So let me come back to what you said earlier in terms of Elcoma. Yeah? We are also a member of Elcoma. We're having a very strong body, and Mr. Sushan is really doing a very tireless job to talk in and out to the dedicated government bodies with a slow movement. Yeah, and that's what you said, or I do not cannot recall it. But when we go out of that government-driven price approach, this would open a bigger scale. Yeah, to really this tender thing. It's not the best thing to focus on tenders only, because you only get a little bit of a technology, and the decision will be made by price. Yeah? So you are in a channel where you are really trapped, more or less, as a government. I am from Germany, so in Germany it's the same. When you talk to the government, it is a very, very, very long process.
No, all I'm saying is influence the government to write a better specification. Then everybody can compete at that level.
We are
Look
there.
at the National
Elcoma
Building
is doing
Code.
that.
There's half a page on lighting.
Yeah.
Half a page. And yet it's probably the third most important thing in the
Exactly.
building.
And from a lighting manufacturer's point of view, whether you buy a 6000K LED or you buy a 3000K LED, the cost is not different.
No, it doesn't matter.
So exactly. So if you're just able to influence the government to say that, listen, look at warm lighting, look at pointing your street lights parallel to the road rather than at an attack angle of 5 or 10 or 15 degrees, that's what leads to the night pollution. So it's just
you need to catch, besides that sales force which you mentioned about, each state has one energy minister, and that's only 27 or 28 or whatever numbers we are at today, and with the union territories, catch hold of those 30 people, make the specs right.
Yeah, it comes down to that. I mean, if you look at what's happening in a lot of the
Yeah,
tenders-
you will see change getting driven from two sides again.
Yeah, but it is changing, because if you look at certain of the government projects we're working on, I'm totally surprised to see that one of the projects we're working on, the semi-government body has brought in an outside quality auditor.
Yeah.
I've never seen that on a project before.
and it's great.
And it's
I'm on the project with him, and it's great. It just ensures that what is written in the tender will damn well get implemented.
So that consciousness is coming, and that's
Oh,
also
yeah.
a change.
If you look at some of the street lighting tenders that are
Yeah.
going out now,
Yes.
with of the more intelligent ones,
Right.
the tenders are written in such a way now, which is going back to, I think someone was talking about it before. If the tender's written right,
Yeah.
then it has to be delivered that way,
Yes.
and we have to hold people accountable for the time span. It's no longer 1 year; it's actually 5 years. And in the B2B market, people are now literally holding the vendors to 5 years if that goes wrong.
No, I am closing orders in the last 6 months where I have faced, and I'm offering 10-year warranties on products. Or there are clients asking for 10-year warranties, and we have to offer it.
I wouldn't be offering 10 years.
Well, but if the quality of product that you're offering is that reliable,
Yeah, but
and he
50,000
as a German can vouch for it, and there are his competitors in Germany that are producing products that will stand 10, 15 years without a problem.
But Kevin, what percentage of your overall projects that you do, what percentage comes from the government project?
40%.
40%. Rest is
Sorry.
commercial.
It's a mixture of commercial and residential and healthcare.
Then
and so on.
that means the overall your 40% is more in comparison to other people that I talk to, or the architects or interior designers that I talk to. What percentage of manufacturing you do for the government projects? What percentage of projects go for the government projects?
We mainly only participate in tenders.
So
Have a direct source due to
So,
Many
so,
reasons.
so now the point is for him 40%, but rarely it's mostly 20 or 30%. The other 70-80% is, or 60% for him, is the commercial or the residential projects. So when we are talking that government should focus on this, your percentage is currently is being driven by commercial and residential. Then why don't we see that these commercial and residential projects drive this kind of, why do you think that government, obviously government plays an important role, yes, but your percentage is small. He is manufacturing or,
But that
or any of
one-
the manufacturing.
One tender is 1 million pieces.
Yes. Yeah. Correct.
Is 10 lakh pieces.
Yes.
So imagine how many states and cities it is going into. When the government takes out a tender for street lighting, it
Yes.
is 10 lakh pieces.
Hmm.
His 70% of private projects will not even add to 10,000 pieces.
Right.
Infrastructure
Yeah,
development.
infrastructure. See, one thing which just struck me, see the type of infrastructure projects which you are having in our country, and you see the type of airports which have just come
Yes.
up, and we had a major change in the airport industry. You have the government designed Airport Authority India airports which have come in, and you have the private segments which have come in. So you see Hyderabad, Bangalore, you see Bombay, they are all private enterprises,
Yes.
and you see the lighting there. And you see the airport in AI, whatever it is.
Chennai Airport.
Chennai Airport. I want to say that. Right? And you see the type of lighting difference between the two.
Yeah.
There are architects there are people working there. The architects here, there are people working here. So what is the difference? And why is there so much of disparity between the privately designed and run airports and the other ones?
That's a process question.
No, I don't know. See, so what I'm just trying to sort
It is
of
private.
point out.
It is exactly that, private investment versus public investment.
No, I think it comes down to the fact that the requirements that are written by the Airport Authority of India require illumination.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they don't require
Lighting. Yeah.
They don't require the airport to spend 30 lakhs on each light fixture in Mumbai Airport. In terms of the decoratives, which makes that airport.
So the purpose is different. The program requirement is different.
Well, yeah, but I think that if you and let's face it, that GVK and GMR are much smarter than the government.
Sure.
If they thought they could really make money by just illuminating the ceiling, they would have done it. They're building environments to make money, and they
Yes.
spent that money on that
Yes.
airport to make money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So
And
that's a
yes.
program requirement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm
you-
responsible for 2 of those airports from a lighting standpoint to a large way, and I can tell you the attitude difference is night and day.
Yeah, as what has just been pointed out, these airports with this type of external lighting and things and all, which cost you more, making more money than the other airports, which are still
Look at
running at a
Hyderabad
loss.
Airport, you can't move. There's so
Yes.
much retail. There's nowhere to sit in Hyderabad
Yes.
Airport because they're hitting the retail hard. But it's given us an airport which is a pleasure to be in.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But if government is investing in this kind of lighting in for the airport or infrastructure, even for metros or all those things, and the
Well,
all
the metros they are. The metros, the metro, the technology that's gone into most of the metros,
It's very
and,
good.
and what's going on in Hyderabad with the underground stations and things.
Even Mumbai, the metro stations are going to look stunning.
Yeah.
But what is the difference that it is
not
bringing
so
in?
in Bangalore.
Yeah, Bangalore is still happening. But what is the difference it is bringing in? What it brings to the government back? For private agencies, I can understand. What does it bring? So if you want the government to invest in this kind of technologies, what do you think that it brings back to the
Well,
government?
the government's prepared to invest but somebody's,
Yes.
the will has to be there from the people setting the rules. Yep.
But nahi, the
No,
point-
to gain, there are many things to gain. Starting from a capex versus opex issue to the experience issue, and improving the experience increases the value of the real estate in terms of returns.
Okay.
If you program it right, even on the metro stations.
True. The thing is, the real estate, what we are talking about, especially we are talking about GMR, we are talking GMR or GV. The thing is, they know to capitalize the real estate. The thing is, the program, what they are talking, they are capitalizing every part of the real estate, and the capex, what they are investing, they know the opex and capex, they have an ROA on that. They have a plan. But here, when a government body organization, if that has been very clearly defined and it's been submitted, absolutely there is nothing stopping a government to invest on that?
So I think the missing delta, why GVK and GMR have done what they have done.
Yes.
I think the missing delta that people are, or that the government probably doesn't have upfront is that there is a certain passion and a sense of pride that both the organizations wanted to create national assets that not only they could be proud of, but the average Indian could be proud of. And that is why they've gone and done what they've done. There was no need to build 3 kilometers of art in Mumbai airport. It has just been done out of passion and a sense of pride.
Do you think a business company will do it for a passion?
Of course.
Don't you think that
Absolutely.
eventually it has
No,
it,
so
it must come down to profitability?
I would add another dimension there. It's not just the passion, but obviously
But the passion is a
it's
big
related to
factor.
the brand name of their own
Fair
company,
enough.
right?
Fair enough.
True.
Fair enough.
True.
Whatever it is, but it is, if the passion was not there, that art would not be there.
I agree.
Right. So some projects you earn money, some projects you earn a name, some projects you earn something which would be on a longer this thing. But for the government, I don't think any of these things matter. Right? For them,
Government has no
No,
brand
no,
name to earn.
no. Kelvin is working on a project right now with the government as a client, and their desire is to build something truly globally world class, and it will happen.
So again, that's a part of the slow change.
you look
Part of the slow change.
What about the smart cities?
Fingers crossed.
Smart cities is one of the projects.
It's
that
a
is
can
being
there.
done.
So
Smart cities is not
It
a
will.
can be.
It will look.
Smart cities is one of the projects that that is bringing in the change. Don't you think? So because I was talking to lot of.
Don't exist. It's a joke.
I don't
Completely.
think so I was talking to Raipur CEO of Smart City and others from the other Smart City CEOs. We had a conclave there, and they say they are willing to even educate their officials on all those technologies, not just with lighting.
Yes.
So there are a lot of things that.
No, they have not
What
been
is
able to
smart
even
street lighting?
define
What
as
is
to what
smart street
what a
lighting?
smart city is.
What
Like
makes a street light smart?
Will it make the people smart, or the smart people will make the city?
No, I
there's
don't
so many
think this-
questions which is just.
Obviously discussion can be done, but if they are investing in a space where they are installing smart street lights, smart traffic lights, smart other things, and they are bringing in a panel where they can see all those things happening in Raipur or in Nagpur or in other smart cities, and if they are doing this kind of things, and they can see that if this street light is if is dud, then they have to replace it or something like that for traffic lights, or even for all those things that are happening. If they are willing to invest, I think that is. Don't you think that is a start?
You are putting in technology in a city. You are not making the city smart. The smart city is a totally different concept.
To your point, Ankit, you said if they can sense sitting in a control room that a light is off and they're going to replace it, if that is the extent of smartness, then I'm sorry, India is in for a big amount of trouble.
Okay.
Okay, you can walk on the street and see that a street light is not working and change the bulb.
And
You don't need to sit in a control room and pay 15,000 rupees for a street light to make it. I mean, a smart.
Don't
as
you
he
think
said-
that is a physical cost?
Huh?
Manual cost is involved in that. How would you?
Yeah,
go
but
to
the manual cost is what will take India out of poverty. If we don't give employment to those people, where are we going to go? Anyway, there are no jobs.
We are moving on a
Okay,
very
we will
different
bring.
subject.
Okay, so bring back to the technology disrupting the lighting industry. I will ask Ralph. For you, how do you see this how do you see India or the lighting industry in India? How do you see the clients that you are working with? How interested are they in these kind of technologies? How willing you are to invest in these kind of technologies from the business perspective, from the profit perspective, and which are the technologies that you're looking at that may take your way forward in the future?
First of all, when you have visited the last lighting building in Frankfurt, you saw on each booth human-centric lighting. So everybody picked up that topic to pay attention of any customers. Yeah? So we as Ledvance, we are having this product which will be rolled out in 2 months in Germany. So it will come in this stage 6 months later to India, estimated, because we are a German-based company, so it will always be first put in the European market. I forecast that human-centric lighting will fire up here in the next, starting from 2021, and will boost up.
the
Consumer.
B2C or the B2B?
B2B.
B2B, it's already
It's already
happening.
happening.
It's already happening.
Yeah.
I
in a
can
big
tell
way.
you 10 large projects right now that are going with
Right.
tunable white.
We
Okay,
did
we're
a
doing them,
we,
yeah.
we did a project 2 years ago for
I would say your statement is probably more valid for B2C, because in B2B,
Okay.
it's already reality.
HCL's not going to take off. in
It
B2C.
will,
No.
Calvin, it will.
No.
The
No.
cost of tunable white in for the residential market has to happen.
It's a white. That's a white. That's a little bit away. That
No,
requires.
your Swarovskis of the world
no, I'm
and
just
even
saying-
Philips Hue, for example,
Yeah, but
is a step in that direction,
no,
Calvin.
absolutely. I made that point earlier.
yeah.
What has to happen is that one of the major manufacturers has to make more than one color temperature available to the market.
Exactly.
And somebody needs to give some choice. Yep. Now, nobody gives a Bajaj, doesn't give, I shouldn't use names, but none of those manufacturers are giving a choice. You just buy what
Is there?
is
yeah.
there. But I think another point that comes back from earlier on is that you couldn't find a lighting shop in Bangalore 5 years ago, a decorative lighting shop. And now there's one on every damn street corner. And I think that is also indicating that people's requirement for how their home looks and for what's happening is changing. Now, it may be Chinese crap, it may be locally manufactured something, but it is causing a change.
Yes.
People go and they don't just put tube lights on the walls anymore, they're actually going and buying light fixtures.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge change.
It is. It is.
And I think that that will just keep rolling. And I think, going back to an earlier point, that we will somehow, we will take that shortest route. We won't go right the way around the circle. And right now, Philips Hue lamps are way too expensive.
True. True.
But that's going to, a year from now, that's going to change. And one of the manufacturers, the big companies here, needs to. There's no rocket science inside that Philips lamp.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the big opportunity, Ralph, really is in the B2C segment to provide choice. The minute you give choice to the consumer and you create innovation in that choice is when your entire top line and approach to all of that will change humongously. I think the B2B human-centric lighting is already here. The future is now. But in B2C, it isn't. And the only people who've made advances, as he said, are very expensive. I think the big opportunity is in B2C.
Companies like Ledvance, maybe a 5-year back, mobile phones, there was an Indian company which changed the whole market. Overnight, all the incoming calls became free.
Yes.
It changed the whole market. It's one step by one company. So if that could be brought in, the whole thing will move ahead.
No, even OnePlus, no? I mean, today OnePlus is 40% of the premium segment of the market in mobiles.
And if you know
it's one
that
company.
But if you know that OnePlus, your Vivo, and other 3 more companies all belong to only one large enterprise.
Right.
It's only the segment. Still, India has the segments to reach. There are 3 different companies under one conglomerate. Yeah,
That's fine.
that's thing.
It's Volkswagen, no? I mean, ultimately they've got 10 brands on.
I think the disruption what Kevin probably is talking about, the recent example probably is 1 GB of data at 300 rupees when Jio comes up with something, and
We should
today we
have
are
a
getting
chat.
100 GB of data, 70 GB of
Maybe
data
a
for the
week
same
back,
amount.
the announcement.
And the
week
announcement, I'm coming to that
Came-
only, yeah. So
TV.
you need disruption rather than the full circle again.
Absolutely.
Something is going to change.
Incremental change in lighting will not get anybody anywhere. It has to be
It has to be that disruption and that
high jump, as
High
Mr.
jump.
Modi said.
But who do you think would drive this kind of disruption? Do you think that
it's an open market. It's first come first serve.
it's anybody's market.
Anybody's market now.
You cannot
cannot
predict.
win
Fortune favors the brave. The first one who
yes.
does it
No,
will win.
we don't have foreign manufacturer or Indian manufacturer. The thing is, that's what the whole globe has become in a part of a mobile. So everybody is connected. So absolutely, there is no difference between a foreign or an Indian manufacturer. First come first serve.
First come first. That's
That's
exactly.
the thing that the technology that is being used by the foreign manufacturers are better than the one that is being used by the Indian manufacturers.
No.
It is more on this thing. What happens? Why do you think that they're
A Bega LED is the Bega are buying a more expensive LED. They have certain ways that they require that LED to work for a period of time. But there is another company next door which is buying something at half the price, because it's been free and it's going to die in 6 months. You know, those are the decisions. I think it will be an Indian company. I think it needs to be someone, because there's no major manufacturers here yet of the Indian company sizes. But one of them has got to take the leap and innovate.
Yeah.
And if they innovate and disrupt, and as Malik and other people and other people have said, change will just happen overnight.
Yeah. Ankit, I think it is that manufacturer that is willing to take its eyes off 4 quarters and say, I'm willing to take a hit for 4 quarters, but I'm going to drive change, because the 10 quarters after that, I will be ahead of the pack. It's that fear of losing out the first 4 quarters that is stopping people from that high jump of change.
Okay. Last takes. I will start with Ralph. What is your take? How do you see this, the future, 4 or 5 years down the line for the lighting industry, for you as a manufacturer, for you as a investing in technology for these kind of lighting products? How do you see this industry, or how do you see your company moving forward?
I see the next 2 years, it will be a bumpy ride for the most of the manufacturers. Not only in India, globally. We have an overproduction, if my figures are not wrong, we have an overproduction of around 30% already in China. Yeah? So this will make pressure more to the prices and faster than we may estimate. So, but I think in particular in India, there will be a lot of funerals for companies in the lighting industry, for manufacturers in particular. We have already 2 or 3 contract manufacturers which backed out of the market before they got bankrupt. And then I think in around 3-4 years, I see really a big jump coming. That's my personal outlook. Sure, we have to. That's what he is saying, because now we are fighting with the mass market. We have to break out. Therefore, I'm listening. I learned a lot from you, really, because you are the profis. You're facing daily the market. But that's what you are saying. You have to make a break, looking on the figures for some quarters. You need the board behind, of course, and then say, okay, and now we make a total new start.
The example of that is Samsung.
Yeah.
Videocon's gone. All the television
Exactly.
manufacturers are gone.
Yeah.
And Samsung maybe doesn't dominate now, but they did that by deciding that they wanted to own that market. They cut the prices, they bought the product in, and they killed it. The whole white goods market.
Today, as of now, the 4K television, I think OnePlus is coming in now. Sony costs a 50-inch screen costs you about 1.2 lakhs, and MI is bringing it the same thing at about 40,000. So I'm not saying it's about a price game, but the disruption has to be brought in. Now, how you do it is the challenge.
Yeah.
That's the problem statement, and not the margins.
Right.
I think probably 6 months down the line, 650 rupees of Netflix will go down to a 350 probably, with Jio coming in. That's the game. So true.
First shows become free, no?
First day first show becomes free. So it's a disruption of how you place your business model. That's the game right now.
Yeah.
See, we are not looking for the retrofitting where like B2C, if we are going for the B2C market, we can move towards the retrofitting. Maybe that will help to get the business. Or
Retrofitting, do you think that this will be
see, most of the clients in the if we are going to the B2C, most of the clients are asking for if we can just remove the lamps and put the LED fixtures. That is the main problem. We are not getting that kind of fixtures for B2C. If we are going for the consumers.
I think some some startup, some app will be developed. If someone want to design a light for his house, or so it's just like an app. You put the size of the rooms and all. You will get what the requirement is and what the option is available in the market for that particular requirement. So there is a space for this kind of startup or this kind of application is there,
Right.
and we have to promote this and educate.
Dinesh, how do
people.
you look at it?
Well, the amount of change which I have seen in the past 5-10 years is, so tremendous. I do not know whether LEDs are going to last for the next 5 years or not. Because there may be something else which may come.
That's exactly the point. That we are talking about.
Since we are talking of change and acceptance and things and all, and on the other side we are restricting our discussion to LEDs.
Yes.
So,
But the research and development, is it?
yes, so there may be something which may come up which are still better than LEDs in the next few markets. I'm not into that segment, but then the amount of change is what we are discussing. There's so much of change.
For Ralph's sake, I hope not. because as Mr. Munjal said in the post-budget speech this year, that the automobile industry hasn't recovered its investment on the BS6 fuels as yet, and the finance minister is saying go for electric vehicles. They're killing the automobile industry. They have to recover their investments first before they can move to the next big disruption.
Because if somebody is saying that this particular bulb is going to last you for 10 years, let me tell you, nobody will buy. Nobody wants to be stuck with the particular product for 10 years today. And that is one reason why Chinese are so well accepted in the market. They know this is going to cost X, it's going to last 3 years, I'm very happy. Let it be after 3 years, I'll buy a new one. And that's a big market.
But that was the market that collapsed America.
Which one? So now that's the reason why there's so much of things piled up there. America is not buying it.
Right. Great. So we have seen a lot of discussion on how the disruption might happen. A lot of concerns from the interior designers and architects. Right. So in order to end it, I think that how the industry of what we have discussed, of what we have talked to manufacturers, vendors, and all those things, the manufacturers in India are willing to invest in the technologies. But the thing is, nobody is talking about the awareness. Awareness is one thing that someone might have to look at too. Maybe the lighting designers might play important role, which was not a important fixture a few years back, but now lighting designers are being taken very seriously by all the not just the commercial developers, also from the residential developers and others, even the government perspective as well. So they might bring in awareness. The manufacturers might have to bring the awareness, but the technology, the investment from the investment perspective, the companies, manufacturers are investing in this technology. What we have to see is how much new technologies that come in. Research and development, how much investment they make because of the slowdown that is happening, how much they will be willing to invest in the research and development. That is one thing that we might have to look at. Great. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.